All right. Hello, mama. That's what we say.
Hey, baby. Hey,
In some
Sonic
ways,
baby
that is the
fans.
theme of the movie. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show that does video game movie reviews. My name is Ethan, and with me here in the slummy anvil itself is my friend Devin.
Now this is an American classic.
Perfect. And with us here to fight to the death, as always on these reviews, is David. How's it going?
Sorry, I don't share.
Oh,
That's a good one. I also had This Is Good Shit, My Friend. I've been ready for years. Burn everything and everyone. The way you spread your toes is impressive. I almost went with that
Oh
one.
my god.
Yeah.
But if this is like
Forgot
someone's
about
first
that.
episode, they're gonna be like, "This is fucking weird." I'm gonna immediately
See,
click out of this.
the quote I wrote down, I don't write down any of these quotes, but every now and then when I watch these movies, I'm like, that's the quote he's going to do. And 4 out of 5 times I'm wrong. So I'm not on the same wavelength. But the quote I wrote down was the guy that he brings the ball to at the beginning of the movie. Guy says, used to be you had a free market justice system. Now everything's Tekken. And I'm like, that's such a stupid line.
Everything's Tekken. Ain't nothing gonna save you now, boy.
That's right.
I don't remember who says that, but I have that one.
Folks,
You will obey.
Folks, these quotes are from the movie that this title of this episode
Mhm.
is. If you're watching the YouTube video, you see the thing. If you're on Apple Music podcasts and all that stuff, you see the thing. But it's Tekken. The 2010, sometimes referred to as 2009, sometimes referred to as 2011, but the 2010 film, Tekken, live action. We were reviewing this on today's episode of the Sonic Movie Show. Remember, folks, we have a whole list of movies that we're doing. We have a draft episode where we did them all. You'll see the full list at the end of this episode before we do our fun little game show we do. As always, before we begin to review the movie itself, we want to make sure that we go around the table here, around the horn. I'll be Shaquille
The
O'Neal.
round table.
And ask a simple question. Hey, have we played the video game that this movie is based off of? I'll start with Devin. Have you played Tekken? Or Tekken, as Michelle Rodriguez said in the Game Awards that one year, remember?
Yeah. Way you're saying Tekken reminds me of this one meme of a kid from Western New York at a opening night for a Chick-fil-A, and they're like interviewing why he's so excited, and he's like, "It's just chicken." That's how you're kind of saying it for me. It's just Tekken.
Chicken.
It's Tekken.
Yeah.
No, I've played probably out of all the fighting movies that we've watched and talked about at this point, I feel like this is the least one I've played. Like I couldn't even really name a character going into this movie offhand because I was getting it.
We watched
confused with
another
Street
Tekken
Fighter.
movie a year ago.
I don't remember it, dude. I don't
An animated
remember.
one.
But then as the movie was progressing, I was like, oh yeah, now I do remember. Like there's from the animated one where it's like, yeah, the father and the grandfather and the Holy Spirit. That whole dichotomy.
I guess to be fair,
but I don't remember
I think every character that was in the animated movie, but the ones you just mentioned aren't in this movie, so there's no overlap.
Yeah,
even though I think it was only 2 years in between, so it's the same era of Tekken that they pulled from.
But yeah, I haven't really played. I think outside, I think I've played it with you at your house at some point, but I've never owned a Tekken. I think I've seen it at an arcade and was like, oh, cool. Maybe I played it at a Dave and Buster's, or shout out to Adventure Landing in Rochester, New York. Maybe there. But yeah, I don't really remember. If anything, yeah, I just feel like I get Tekken confused with a combination of Street Fighter, Virtua Fighter, and maybe something else. And it's just like, oh yeah, that exists, but everyone likes it from what I hear for the most part. So
same company that does Soul Calibur as well, which I know you do know.
Soul Calibur, yeah, I played a lot of Soul Calibur when I was younger. But yeah, I don't really have any strong opinions, or rather opinions really at all, outside of I remember the dude with the hair.
There's a lot of dudes with the hair.
Well, I meant he's bald and he has the spikies.
Oh, yeah, Heihachi Mishima.
It would help that I get the cast up on screen for myself.
Oh yeah, I don't know any of these actors, so someone that has.
Well,
the cast
you
will
do,
help.
you do, because one of them's one of our favorites. Your Soul Is Mine, who plays
Oh.
Hahachi Mishima,
He was in
Kari
Mortal
Haruki
Kombat?
Tagawa. He's Shang Tsung.
Tsung,
Your
yeah.
soul is mine. Yeah.
Huh. I was
And he also
wondering,
was-
like, who did they get for that? Like, huh,
When I saw
interesting.
him, I'm like, oh, he's got to do 2 fighting games like big villains. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to he's also a Planet of the Ape in the Tim Burton one though.
Oh. Isn't the
Another
one
Fast
with
fact
what's his name in it?
I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Who stars in the next movie we're gonna watch. So that was
Does
the
he?
reason why I
Oh my
brought this up.
god.
Pretty sure he is Max Payne in the movie we are watching called
Oh,
Max Payne
awesome.
next.
Hold
I
up,
don't
Matt
know if
Damon,
that's good or
right? Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg. Yeah.
Matt Damon.
All right.
The 2 M's, just this is
All right,
such
now
a Sound
I
Show
feel like
thing.
I might be nitty here. I don't know if it is Matt Damon or Mark Wahlberg as Max Payne. We'll find out next time. We'll see that in the future.
I thought it's my pick, right? What didn't I pick something for the sole purpose that I saw like the name in it?
I mean, would you pick a movie
That's what I
based off
thought.
either of them?
When did Max Payne come out? I'm looking
2008.
at it. All right, hold on. I gotta scroll. Maybe someone else go.
David, you played any Tekken?
The only time I've played Tekken is with you. Besides that, I've not played Tekken at all. So just like the couple times at Ethan's house. But other than that, I mean, I really have no strong experience.
Oh,
Okay.
it stars. Yeah, stars Mark Wahlberg, by the way. But
Okay.
I'm not seeing it on his IMDb.
Telling. Perhaps. We'll figure that out. I mean, IMDb is
under
also a shit
I'm under
website,
producer.
so-
That's why. My bad. That's my
Okay, there
bad,
you go,
folks.
there you go.
Sorry to be
IMDb
like, oh,
sucks.
maybe it's gonna be bad.
They should list like music videos and movies and TV shows and video games all separately, but they don't. It's just actor, and you
I
gotta
see it
know.
now. He was in between that. He was in The Happening and The Lovely Bones.
Oh, both interesting movies, I will say. Both interesting
Oh, you've seen
movies,
those?
yes.
Nice.
Tekken is my favorite fighting game franchise. I
all
love
time.
Street Fighter a lot, but Tekken was my original. The very first fighting game I ever played was Tekken Tag Tournament on PlayStation 2. This is my original copy. When we
There it
got our
is.
PlayStation 2, either nearly close to launch within the first year, this is the first game we got. My mom and I played this a lot. We love Tekken Tag Tournament. I thought it was like the coolest thing because like it just felt like a very adult game when I'm 5 or 6 years old to see all these people just like beat each other's ass, and the music was cool. It was like electronica and some industrial stuff, and the whole background we have right now is Tekken Tag's character select screen version, that I made. But my favorite fighting game franchise. But I say this as if I've kind of played it ever since. I've didn't play any of them since Tekken Tag until Tekken 7, which was the one David and I had played. That's the one on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam. And then Tekken 8 just came out. But I've gone back through all of them. So I know all of these characters and whatnot. But I've always been drawn to just... It's a 3D fighting game, so it's not straight 2D. There's strafing, there's homing attacks in terms of, sidestepping and all this and stuff like that. And I always felt like the combat...
Like Sonic.
Felt very visceral and felt very like they always do a good job on like the impacts always feel good. They always feel solid. And it's just a very, very good like legacy fighting game where it's like if you've played, from this Tekken game onwards, if you play this character, you already know going into the next game how to play as that character 90% of the time. All your legacy still carries over. It's very rare that happens in fighting games where characters are the same. They just get a couple new things instead of being completely changed. What's your question, David?
Oh, so like Street Fighter is like even though they're the same characters, they're completely new
Ryu
for
still
new
does a
games?
Hadouken in the same fashion, but like the
Like
actual
how you do it.
in the same motion too, but like the special attacks generally stay the same. But for the most part, like Street Fighter reinvents itself every single time. Mortal Kombat tries to do that, but they come out more often. But like I can close my eyes right now and do a Jin combo from Tekken 5, and it's in Tekken 8. Just the same, like left punch,
Gotcha.
right punch, that type of stuff. For the
I was
most part,
gonna.
is the same. Rather, as in Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and Soul. I don't know about Soul Calibur. I haven't played that much. That
I don't
stuff
know.
tends to change. Your signature stuff, like a Hadouken or your get over here is Scorpion, that stuff is iconic. That stays the same. But they always try to reinvent those. Whereas Tekken is always like.
Mm.
That's also how they're able to be like, hey, the game has 40 characters at launch, because for the most part, their move data is the same. And they're just adding in. You get a character like King, who isn't in this game. He's a wrestler with a puma mask on, like an actual puma head over his head.
See, I know him
He was in
because
this movie. I was disappointed.
He's easy to remember.
Homie has over 200 attacks, and some of them are so complicated. You can watch clips on YouTube and TikTok or whatever of Tekken 8 noobs fighting a King ranked, someone that's played King since maybe Tekken 5, where like they're doing just grabs as King, where your health bar just goes down because they don't know how to get out of it, as he's just rolling around cracking your legs and your arms and stuff, and they don't know how to get out of it. And it's easy. There's several ways to get out of it, but they're just mashing. They don't know what to do because that player has that legacy skill from playing this character for a couple decades. So that's what I've always respected about Tekken. And then they added new characters that are fresh, and they always highlight them, and that's how like noobs get into those new characters. But
Can I ask to kind of like segue us to the next part of this movie discussion? In the sense of, so because when they say in this post-apocalyptic kind of Blade Runner-y Fallout world combination, it's just Tekken and other companies. Is that in the games at all? I don't remember even from the
No.
what we watched last time.
I was wondering
Tekken
about this as well.
Tekken being one even name dropped at all, and if it was, I thought it was a tournament, kind of like Mortal Kombat, right, where it's called something. But I was not expecting this. I'm like, wait, Tekken's a company? And I'm like, did I miss? I'm like, I haven't played in the games. Like I said, I don't have really much knowledge, but I'm like, I feel like I would have known that at the very least from something Ethan's told me. Like,
yeah,
it's like knowing Umbrella from Resident Evil.
Right,
I haven't played all the games. Like, what I mean? Like, I knew that before I even played any Resident Evil games. Like, that kind of knowledge where I was like, is Tekken a company? I'm like, I guess it kind of sounds like a weird tech company or something, like Tekken.
No, so
I don't know.
This is clearly a movie. It reminds me, when we did our draft episode, I specifically called out, I think for both this movie and my previous pick, Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, as like, my hopes are they're leaning more towards DOA Dead or Alive versus The King of Fighters, where DOA was a very fun, it knew it was stupid, goofy take on its premise. Whether or not that was 100% to what the game's stories was is besides the point. And King of Fighters felt ashamed to be based off the game that it is. Changed everything. I think this movie is a bit in between, to be a little bit fair. But the entire premise is that, like, I wouldn't even say they were like ashamed, because the entire premise of the Tekken games, I think, is cool. It's just fathers and sons that hate each other and they want to kill each other. And one of them is the literal devil because of genetics, and he wants to kill everyone because of that. And his father wants to kill him not because of that, but for other reasons. Like, that type of stuff I find very cool. It's very rare to see your video game protagonists be awful people. Like, you root for an awful person to kill his father, and then in the next game, you root for his awful son to kill him. It's just like the way these stories are. I love it. But no, there's no like. This movie opens up with presumably Jin at the time, and you do know it's Jin by his voice, saying after the Terror Wars, which is such an awful B-movie line to open a movie with. After the Terror Wars, like, I'm gonna name drop a proper noun as if it's this big thing, but it's got a lame name. We in real life wouldn't call something the Terror Wars. We would say Desert Storm or something like
Hunger
that.
Games
Or 9/11. No, none of that's real. I mean, when they show the map of the different corporations, there is a corporation in the Tekken games called G Corp. It's Kazuya Mishima's corporation that he owns, where he tries to fight the other like corporation in the game. There are two corporations in the game. There's G Corp, and then there's the Mishima Zaibatsu, which is the one that hosts the King of Iron Fist tournament, otherwise known as Tekken. That's what the name is supposed to be, I'm pretty sure.
Otherwise known as And then just another like random set of adjectives and nouns.
And the other thing too,
Iron Fist, Terror
yeah.
Wars.
In the games, the premise of the King of Iron Fist tournament is whoever wins, Heihachi relinquishes the company to that person. So, but that was weird that they didn't do that angle necessarily. They do in the sense that, like, oh, spoilers, Heihachi is dead, and so Jin gets it because he's his grandson. But that's a little bit different than, like, the games are like, oh, anyone that gets it, they get to own my company type of thing. Assuming that they, I guess, do the tournament again next year. But there's a lot of little things we can talk about as we go through the story that are a little bit different. I will just say my overall thoughts on that is, while I do feel like there's an obvious they are ashamed by the general premise, they do get a lot of the little things correct, in the sense of, like, when we see Eddie Gordo is one of those fighters, and he's a capoeira fighter, he's actually doing somewhat capoeira type of fighting. It's a dance type of fighting style. It's very cool. And his outfit is almost exactly identical to the games. But then you get some characters that their outfit's completely different. They don't feel like doing the hairstyle. So, like, it's a weird back and forth. They're like, we like this person, and so they're going to be faithful, but then this person's going to be completely different, just because we want that. So it's a mix back and forth. But I've talked enough about stuff. We could talk overall thoughts. I was starting with one of you two. Who has any ideas about their thoughts? I don't know why I said it like that. Do you know what you're talking about? Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea? Oh, I'm sorry.
I can go, Devin, I guess.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think coming off of our last two movies, our high, this was an adjustment. I think this is what I expected video game movies to be. I mean,
this is
just
the standard,
generally,
I feel like
it felt like there was so much action, but somehow I was getting bored during some of the action scenes. Like, I was like, maybe it's just like too much action or something. I mean, it just starts out like so intense, right? Just like the first scene in the movie is like an explosion or something, and him running away. And then just overall, generally, I didn't understand his like motivations or just the plot. I mean, I guess in general, like, I understood, like, oh, like, they killed his mom, so now he just pure revenge, I guess. He wants to go kill owner of this company. But it felt like he just went in with no plan. Like, there was no setup. It was just, I'm just gonna go walk in and kill him. It was just like,
right. Yeah, because there's a point like, where he's like, I'd like to thank Heihachi and meet him. It's like, guy's like, no. And then that was
it. Yeah. So it was just a lot of that. Weird. I mean, here's what I'll say. I think a lot of the fighting, like you were saying, some of it was good and fun. But then I feel like they had too many scenes of random fighters that, like, I didn't really care about. Like, for example, the fight right before Jin fights what's his name? What's like the second to last fight? Who's that guy called?
Brian Fury.
I think just the American looking. Yeah, Brian Fury. Like, Brian Fury fights another guy, and I was like, why are we? I think the point.
But that other guy was from the game, and they probably
right.
I don't know.
And I get that, and I think the point was like, oh, this guy's like super dangerous and like ruthless, like he kills him like ruthlessly. But I think that it could have just been done earlier. Like, one of the other fights like set him up as brutal, and then you don't have to have this random fight right before. But I mean, at the same time, it was not all terrible. I think I enjoyed a lot of the just like weird moments, like weird sort of comedy bits that they did, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Devin?
So I feel like how you said, when you kind of, your first two picks here, I guess, are comparable in the sense they're based off of
They're a
fighting
year
games
apart,
from
too.
the same from the same era, literally a year apart. I'll at least, I think the first like positive for me is that the fight scenes in this are, I think, better choreographed than a lot of the other fighting game movies we've watched that are live action, including Street Fighter: Legend of Chun-Li, where I think that one was just a lot more misses. I mean, I can't I just keep visualizing the spinning kick in the nightclub and just like how goofy that was, and just felt out of place, even though it's from the game. It just felt very
Yeah.
out of place. But in this one, I felt like it was a little bit more consistent. I feel like they kind of tried their best with what they're given. I did like the kind of goofy, like how the stage would change and there would be different like environmental like things
Yeah.
in the
Oh,
center.
Yeah.
Like, it
actually
reminded me of
really
like
like those.
American Gladiator a little bit, or something
I
like
guess
that.
that was their way to be like, oh, in a fighting game, all the stages are in just random, cool places that they make. How are we going to represent this in a localized tournament? I
Yeah,
guess.
so I thought that was kind of a clever idea. As opposed to just like, I don't know, like they meet at these random locations and that might feel weird
Yeah.
pacing wise. So they're like, nope, they're coming here, they're fighting, and then that gives a random thing where like, oh, now there's spikes or now there's fire or whatever. If anything, I'm like, WWE should do something like that. Have like a some sort of set that changes. Fans get to vote on what they want to
It'd
see.
be
I don't know.
interesting.
That'd be fun.
The Rock, I'm open. Call
The
my
Rock.
number. Yeah.
I mean, hey, he is
I can pitch more ideas.
in charge of a lot of WWE now, so who knows?
He's my WWE
He could
leader, I
have
guess.
the set from
My
the Mummy
president.
3 on as a fighting
Hell yeah,
game.
that'd be sick, dude. Specifically, they got to go find it in a warehouse
Right.
somewhere where it's probably rotting.
Oh, I'm sure all that stuff was destroyed.
Probably, or reused to something else. Maybe it was used for Prince of Persia. Maybe. But no, those are like my big positives. I feel like I took away from. I'll give it credit for all the goofy dialogue, which I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but I don't care because it's funny. I laughed. Like I said, I had before we started recording, I had like 8 to 9 different quotes in my notes app, just from this movie alone, where I'm like, these are just very goofy. So I'm gonna give it more goof than what the Street Fighter: Legend of Chun-Li was. So I think it's a positive for me. But I also kind of agree with Dave. At some moments, I did feel like I was kind of losing interest, which was surprising considering I feel like it had a little bit more energy compared to Street Fighter: Legend of Chun-Li. I feel like Street Fighter: Legend of Chun-Li was a little bit more serious in a way. So like, and somehow that kept my attention in a sense of like, okay, how are they gonna like make this weird or like or mess up this section here? When Tekken, it felt like, yeah, they were kind of just making it campy. I think so, right? It felt campy, but after a while, just kind of got redundant to me in a little bit. Not in like how Mortal Kombat 1995 was. I feel like it was kind of trying to find that energy, and it just didn't hit for me at most parts. Um, it has a lot of your just classic 2010s. I feel like era like gamer movie magic, aka let's just get women in
Yeah.
in the least amount of
yeah.
clothing as possible. So I was just like rolling my eyes at that. I'm like, like, what is she wearing at that nightclub,
Yeah.
man? Like half
That
her
was
ass is
what it
like,
looked like,
what?
a plumber's
Right.
set of pants. I was like,
like I get
that's
they're
not
trying to
even
make her
yeah.
like sexy or something, but I'm like, it just came across to me. It's just like just
Yeah,
doesn't feel comfortable, or I don't know. I'd just be laughing if I saw that in real life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then like he with more about the objectifying women in this, is that just funny that like he has a girlfriend back home that like he kind of
Yes.
just forgets about,
That
and
was
she's
so
cheering
weird.
for him.
Right.
She's cheering for him at the
I
end.
think as
She
far
has
as he
no
knows, she
idea.
could also be dead, like too. You
I
know.
thought- Yeah,
They
I
showed
thought
her
she
at-
was just forgotten about, but she
Yeah, she was.
wasn't.
No, she was in the bar there in the
Yeah, they show
in
her
the
being like,
club.
Chin,
Oh,
you gotta
please
win
win,
this.
please. You gotta win this. And I'm like, bro's cheating on you, dog. He's going
Yeah,
for the
he
equivalent
doesn't
of
even
Olympic.
think about it. He just goes
Yeah.
for it.
He, yeah, there was no like, oh, I can't, I have someone at home,
hey,
or like any of that at any point.
Like father,
But-
like son, though. I mean, that's how he was
Yeah,
made.
that's true.
You know,
That's
Kazuya did
true.
that to his mama.
Maybe that's for the sequel. But no, I was
there
gonna
is
say
a sequel to this movie.
The whole like kind of I was laughing though with the whole like him romancing with what's her name there. I'm forgetting everyone's character's name. Yeah, it just reminded me of like, I don't know, that's what I think how the Olympics works. Where it's like you have a wife and kids at home, but like I saw you pole vault and sheesh. You're you need to pole vault with me, you know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
That's just like, I mean, the way he like complimented her toes, I'm like, bruh, this is
that was weird.
I'm like, I don't know.
You know how I read that? That was him being a little bit too smooth and finding something to say immediately and leaning into it. That's how I read that, as he just started to deal actual knowledge on something to save himself from just the kind of leering that he was doing at her. Where she handled it very well. Of like, it's rude to stare. Instead of calling him like a creep or like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean?
It's because it just gave me Olympic energy where everyone's just horny and like wants to just everyone's so hot and horny, so everyone's just like,
I didn't know that's what the Olympics were.
You don't know about they give out at the next Olympics in Paris, they already like shipped in like 10 million condoms or whatever because people are just banging, dude.
For the 20 athletes.
They're people in the prime of their physical capacity. You know what I mean? Of course that's gonna happen.
Or I know that in like other Olympics they've purposely made like beds too small for more than one person.
I think like, you're reminding me. I think I have heard about this.
Yeah. Funny. It's like one of the more interesting things in the Olympics where I'm like, it's just like out in the open, like everyone's just having orgies and crazy sex in the Olympics. It's like we never know who with who. That's like it's just what stays in Vegas.
And during the Beijing ones in China, they just shot them. So that's what I heard on Joe Rogan.
But I don't know. This movie was just like, this is where my brain was going watching this movie. I'm just like, this is like, it's funny. It was entertaining, but and I will say I did like it. I don't know. I keep going back and forth if I liked it more than Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li at this point. I'm kind of like maybe waiting to hear what your thoughts are to kind of convince me one direction, because I'm not really like, I guess I'm kind of riding a fence of like where I'm like feeling on this movie, because I feel like there's some fun moments of this. Once again, this movie along with Street Fighter would be a great movie to like watch with your friends and like drink a couple beers and just shoot the shit over. Like that's the kind of energy with this film. At least this movie, I feel like taps into that more than Street Fighter did. I guess that's how I would sum up my thoughts at this time.
Yeah. And I guess I'll add one more thing before Ethan starts. Just oh shoot, I just lost my thought.
It's gone.
Well, okay. I think I was just gonna say. Hey. All right, never mind. It's gone. It's gone.
I work with kids. The number of times a kid has said, "I have a good joke." Number of times a kid has, we've done like would you rathers, and number of kids like, how about I got the preferred one. Would you
ice cream or no, not donuts.
Right.
Endless recess.
Yeah. I will say this to piggyback off what Devin just said. I did like this more than Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, because this felt more like, even though it was not very trying to be what the actual Tekken story is, it tried to make its own thing. There are some things that are truths from the games that are present in the movie, but Street Fighter: Legend of Chun-Li was definitely set up to be a prequel to a Street Fighter movie, and it was not trying to be a Street Fighter movie. It was trying to be a Chun-Li, kind of movie. And I just didn't really like that as much as I liked the fact that this one was like, here are a bunch of characters from the games. That's why you're here, to see all these people. Yeah. Even though they skipped some very obvious ones, like King wasn't in it at all, which I found strange. Maybe they couldn't find a really big guy, or maybe they couldn't get a Puma head mask thing to look convincing. I don't know. There's definitely some characters where I'm like, why aren't they here? Other things, just like Jin has a girlfriend in this movie. It's an original character. Jin's got a girlfriend in the game. She's one of the characters. Why wasn't she in this? There's a lot of little things like that. But some of the main stuff that I did like that they at least had his mom be in there, have his mom die, because she was only in one game back in the day.
Wow, that's toxic, dude.
And, the reasons of how she dies is different. in this movie than in the game, but just like the idea of like he's out for revenge because of that is a little bit different, but still, um, in the movie he doesn't know his father or his grandfather. In the games he definitely does know, and he knows their fighting style because Heihachi has trained him, but then because Heihachi is a bastard, tries to shoot him in the back of the head with a gun, and that doesn't work off in the games. But well, he turns into the devil. He turns into Devil Jin at that moment in Tekken 3. You got to know your lore. None of the Devil Jin stuff was in this movie, which I found strange, but there is a sequel. Maybe it's there. I don't want to give that as an excuse of like faithfulness. Oh, because they're saving it. It's the same thing with the Chun-Li one. Oh, they're saving all the Street Fighter elements for the next one. Doesn't fly there either. You know what I mean? To me, that's a core element of like their hatred is because of passing down the ability to turn into Satan is a key part of that. Other things, here's the thing. When we talk about, and I'm not giving this a tier ranking, I'm just throwing like this out here. We talk about the difference between A tier and S tier. That S tier, the difference is the something special. It's the ability to like kind of maybe surprise you of, oh, they actually did that? I wasn't expecting that from the game type of stuff. What this movie could have done is thrown out the bear that is a character, or the kangaroo.
That's
There's
right.
a dinosaur you can play as. The dinosaur punches with boxing gloves. They could have been a little bit sillier instead of like a good example. The Jacks, they're like the army guys. In this film, I think they're people. And they have like these kendo masks on, these martial, I don't know what some Japanese martial art has these. I think it's kendo. Those types of masks on, they have guns or whatever. Those are the Jacks. In the video game, Jack is a robot of a giant buff dude who doesn't talk, and like Kazuya has an army of them. Why didn't they do something like that for this movie? Would it have been the CG budget? I don't know. Like they could have done a lot of the goofy stuff that's in Tekken. You know what I mean? Like the characters, like I said, our main cast are bad people, but they do fun stuff. One of the arcade endings in Tekken Tag Tournament 2, Heihachi's ending, is he straps his son, his grandson, and his father to a rocket ship and blasts them off into space to finally get rid of them forever. While they're screaming on there. They all hate each other too, but like this guy strapped him. Like none of the goofy stuff is in there. That ending's not canon, but like there's a lot of goofy stuff that they have in the games. Most of the characters that are in the core characters are joke characters. Fans are actually like kind of mad that like after years this character still just has this one note about them that's a joke. Martial Law was in this movie. He's the guy Jin beats in order to get into the tournament. His story is basically he's broke all the time because he's not a good chef, and his son, who's sometimes in the games, always has medical bills to pay because he keeps getting hit by cars. And like,
oh my God.
That's just like his story, and he's from the beginning of the series. You know what I mean? Like that's his thing. They could do goofy stuff like that, but they held off. That's my one disappointment. But overall, they're a little bit more faithful than I feel like the average video game fighting game movie we've had, at least that I've been able to tell. And I was surprised a little bit that they pulled some characters in to do some of this stuff.
If they were gonna bring the dinosaur and kangaroo and shit, like I think you could still do it on a cheap budget. You could have just done like they did with like all the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies in the 90s. Just have a dude like in a suit. You know what I mean?
Hey.
And just be like clearly like not a real dinosaur, but like that would have been fucking hilarious. A dinosaur coming out punching gloves, and they're like, and here's whatever his name is, T-Rex or whatever, right?
His name is Alex.
They should have just had one of those. I think that would have been made it funny enough. Like I think if he had all of them, maybe it'd be too much and too, because I feel like they try to really ground this film and make it somewhat still has silly moments, right, and whatnot, but like it's trying to make it I realistic. I hate using that word, but it's always the best word we can describe it. But it would have been funny if like after that tournament,
gritty.
In the first fight, like the first fight like he sees there is like a T-Rex and some regular dude, and the guy wins.
That would have been hilarious.
Just to then never acknowledge it again. Just like they're like, mean, he gets there, he's like, what the fuck? What kind of like
Yeah.
tournament is this? What even is that? Like, is that a dinosaur?
Even if
Like,
they didn't want to have like a way to make him fight, because that would seem a little bit too silly. Kuma, who is a grizzly bear, who's one of the playable characters in the Tekken series from the very beginning, is Heihachi's pet bear. He loves that bear more than his own children. He has like 20 bastard children and only one legitimate son. He loves the bear more than any of his kids. Have the bear just be in the background. Just be chilling.
Yeah.
He's just snoozing.
be clapping in the crowd.
You know, he just needs to do something. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I will
Or
say
just
though,
like rampage through at one point or something.
yeah,
like
you just
that.
yeah, exactly. And that would be very easy to CG fake through if it's just quickly running through. Your freeze frame's gonna catch it, but like the audience in the theater isn't gonna, you know what I mean? Talking more about like the quote unquote realism, groundedness, whatever. I liked the sets. I liked pretty much every set. Even like the anvil, which again that's just a name they made up. Unless it's some weird obscure name pulled from some Tekken game I'm unaware of, but you know, that whole like kind of setting, like even that like looked good. Like there was a lot of, you know, money went into making this. Even like they pack the bar with a lot of people, you know, they pack the streets with a lot of people. Like, you know, I did appreciate that stuff. It felt like they tried there.
Yep.
I did find
The
the
only
actual like arena a little bit corny, but it was kind of, I'd rather have that than just like a UFC ring, you know, just an octagon.
Yeah.
I
A
would
cage
like this
fight,
more.
like
yeah.
they had at the first fight or whatever.
Yeah. But
I
even
mean,
that
I'm
looked
just
cool
gonna
because
say
of how tight it was.
they did it.
And you have all these, the verticality of people way up high looking down. I liked that though.
Yeah. The only missed opportunity is that they didn't shoot on location in Hong Kong like they did in Street Fighter.
Oh, right. They didn't shoot to do the stage of
And they didn't do a whole scene about like, oh, he's from the streets because
Yeah.
It's from-
he was
right.
there. He
I don't
lived
know,
there
man.
for a week.
I feel like instead of the arena, we could have had they could have gone on location in an active volcano or on a meteor that's in
Right.
space or any of the crazy locations they've done. You know,
I'll never forget the island there for Dead or Alive.
Oh my
that they
God.
were on.
Yes.
Like I was. God, we gotta watch that movie again.
We could
for some reason.
Hey,
we
I would love
gotta
to do rewatches for this podcast. It's just trying to fit them in
Or
the
a
time with all
watch-along
the
or
new
something.
movies. But that's a fun one. And same thing with Street Fighter. You know, the original.
Yeah.
You know, 90s Street Fighter live action one. I would watch that again for sure for the channel. Yeah, I liked a lot of the sets. A lot of the fighting styles. I know, David, you talked about some of them seemed better than others, and there's a lot of fighting, and it can be boring. I agree. For the most part, I think you can tell between the people who knew how to fight before going into this movie and the ones that didn't.
Mhm.
A character that they should not have put in this movie unless they could have nailed it. And I understand they nailed the actor kind of, at least with the hair, looks like him. But Raven, he's the ninja. He's a ninja. And I see this guy, he's just swinging his arms like this fighting. That's not... I understand ninjas aren't real. But if you're going to have the character in it, try your best. By the way, in the games, he's a ninja for the United Nations. So...
Why?
Yes, because he is.
Doesn't make any
They
sense.
got a ninja army in the United
Damn.
Nations. Yeah.
Crazy.
But you know, like that was the character who was like their fighting style is obviously not like the way it is in the game because of course you can't teleport in real life. But like, you know, it just didn't. Okay, we haven't gotten confirmation yet in real life. We haven't got confirmation yet.
If you think about it hard enough, you can.
Would you rather be able to teleport or fly?
Or if you do, if you take enough edibles, you can teleport as well.
Sure,
I can speak
that's
from
your mind
experience.
having a relapse.
That happened to me once. It was kind of creepy.
We got confirmation.
Yeah, well, okay,
I know
fine.
a guy, it was me.
Well, then it's definitely possible, and they didn't do it for whatever reason. I don't know. But then you get like, you know, Eddie Gordo, who is doing capoeira fighting, but they don't do it a lot, which makes me think that like they had a few choreographed stuff for him, and that was it. And then you get like Nina Williams, and I don't know what she was trying to do as a fight when she was fighting Christy. Another kind of letdown. She's the blonde female assassin. The only Tekken character, Devin, I'm going to show this again, the second Tekken movie, I'm going to bring this up once again. The only Tekken character to get her own video game that's just an action game. They liked this character enough, they're like, oh, she can sell. You can't tell, but in tiny little text It says Tekken's Nina Williams in, and then the title of the video game.
Death by Degrees. So is that game just about like turning on the temperature in your house?
Absolutely. She's to killing frogs. One temperature, one degree at a time. I don't know. I actually haven't played the game. I'm sure that's a theme. So some of the characters didn't feel like they were all that accurate, but a lot of them kind of did. Like there was some times where Jin actually had the hairstyle, but then you get like Kazuya who doesn't, and then you get like Heihachi who
I feel like
kind of did.
Jin got his hair like I feel like towards the later half of the movie as he got more, I don't know, serious or sicko mode. I don't know.
Sicko mode.
Just as he got
when he had like all of the gear on.
Yeah,
I did like his look at the end of the movie where he's walking out with all the soldiers, and he has like the hood up and everything, and he's like looking all cool. And I'm like, that's some 20. That he should look like that the entire movie.
From some of
been sick.
The costumes that he's worn over the years, for sure. That's like a mashup. Like the gloves that Steve Fox gives him, who is a fighter in Tekken games, and like his pants that have the one flame down. That's his signature look from Tekken 3. I did find it funny. The pants are blue at the beginning, which is what they are as a recolor in Tekken Tag. But I think because of all the blood, that's why they turned red. I'm like, I
didn't even notice.
They were red at the end because I was paying attention to this stuff because obviously, I know what I'm kind of looking for.
He's a gamer.
Well, right. Whatever. But I was like, why were they red all of a sudden? Did you just have two pairs? Am I missing out? I think it's just because all the blood. I don't know. I think that was.
He forgot halfway through. He's like, I did pack other pants. I don't have to wear these.
Yeah. I don't know. What did you guys think about some of these characters? What were some of your favorites and least favorites?
Oh man. I mean, I think I liked Jin's character overall. Honestly, I think if some of the supporting characters were a little bit better, or maybe just the scenes were in a bit better, I think it could have been really good. Feel like the people in the beginning town felt more real than the people when he got to Tekken, or I don't know the second location they went to, but like those fighters felt more goofy, which is fine, but it felt like it was like serious, and then all of a sudden it got like super like goofy and like fighter game-esque. And I feel like none of the characters when he actually got there to like tournament felt like they had depth. Like I didn't really care about any of them. And I don't know if it's the characters or it's just the writing. Like I wanted to like the girl who was helping him, but then it was also there was like all the things we've already talked about. How it was like, oh, he already has a girlfriend. Like why?
And they had a really like cheating. Crazy sex scene, like, and then the helicopters came, like established. He's just a ladies guy, I guess.
Yeah. That pairing, by the way, just a quick tangent. That pairing is random. Christy and Jin are not a thing. Christy's entire fighting style is just Eddie Gordo's capoeira fighting style. In most of the games, her and Eddie Gordo are like costumes for each other. Like you could pick Eddie's costumes, and then one of them is just it completely changes him and replaces him with her. Like not even different characters on the slot. Like sometimes it is like that they play the exact same. So to have like both of them be in it, and to them to pick her over Eddie, who is a huge fan favorite character, came in the same game that Jin did in Tekken 3, and have her like be a big character, but be completely different in how she fights is interesting. But I didn't mean to cut you off. No, you're good. This is my way of apologizing for the thing I meant to do.
No, you're fine. I think villain wise, I think I don't even know. The son
Kazuya.
I felt like he was just like standard bad guy villain. I don't know that I disliked his character. I don't know that I like in terms of like how well written or whatnot. Obviously, I don't think anyone liked him, but he was fine. And then the older guy, I feel like had more depth, or maybe I was just like wanting there to be because he just spoke less, I guess. So I was like imposing.
He was doing the more like stoic, like evil grandfather, like
right.
I have been
you're not
under
ready
for so
yet.
long, you don't understand the things I know.
And I was expecting that to like come to fruition. I was like, oh, what does he know? And
well,
like,
if you watch to the end credits, he's alive.
I did see that. I was glad that I skimmed through the credits and saw that. But yeah, it felt like there was going to be something more. So I guess I liked him a little bit better just because he was not telegraphing everything. But
yeah. It is a little bit interesting. Like, he almost seems like a good guy in comparison. Like, yeah, he is like ruler of this corporation, therefore this land. Like, he's a bad guy in the general scope of the world for sure. And far as this movie is concerned, but like the way in the story, he doesn't even seem like that.
The perspective it's given to us is like, well, it's actually his son's kind of doing like all the real like
it was the son that killed
work.
his mom.
Yeah,
but he just knows, Mishima. He knows Heihachi. He is the guy in charge. He is who he wants to kill, even though wasn't him, all along. But like, it's just interesting because he's a terrible person in the video game. So like, it's just interesting. I liked the actor who did Kazuya. I just didn't like anything he did.
Ian Anthony Dale.
Yeah.
Perfect. Ian, you did good. I wish they did your hair.
From the series Hawaii Five-0. And he's in Walking Dead. And he's in The Resident and Salvation.
How many episodes in Walking Dead? Is he like a one-off, or is
he's in newer episodes, because I was gonna say I've been rewatching it and I don't recognize him, and it says 2021, 2022, which I'm not there yet, so it's definitely
it's
probably the last season.
When you see him, you can be like, "You're."
But he
is
in. He according to Hawaii Five-0 plays 2 characters. 96 episodes. Adam Noshimuri and Earl Blackstone, or maybe their names are it's like an agent thing.
Yeah, like undercover or something.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it is. But 2011 to 2020, 96 episodes. So
interesting.
I would say probably a star of Hawaii Five-0.
For
96 episodes.
I mean, yeah, he's getting those royalty checks from syndication. That's for sure. He's in that many episodes.
He was also in Battlefield Hardline as Thief.
Okay. Amy Heng's last video game.
And Call of Duty Black Ops 2 multiplayer voice. Wait, what? Is he that guy? Capture the flag.
See, now they should have him fight the guy who's the Halo announcer. Killing spree. But he's an old guy, so I don't know if he would win.
Capture the flag.
Exactly. Man. Thank you for the silence.
Surface too.
Sorry,
David. He was in Surface. Wow.
David, our friend David. I have a very important question for you, David.
Yeah. What's up?
Did you feel the same thing I felt? So the beginning of this movie, we got Jin, he's running from being shot at, and there's bombs going off, and we get some narration about the terror wars and all that stuff. And he delivers the bag, he delivers the thing to a guy who knows what the hell the Beatles were, and gives him. I actually thought this scene was a little good of kind of establishing the state of the world when they talk about the money. I thought that was written very well. Of like, no, I want global blue, global dollars. That was exposition was given to us very well. But anyway, did you feel what I felt? Where this homie's just like me, he gets a big paycheck, immediately pays off a debt, and starts buying stupid food he doesn't need. And he spent half of his money doing that. Homie bought an orange, coffee, and chocolate with a fourth of his paycheck.
So I was so confused about this because he pays off a $360 debt, his entire bar tab with like a bill. It looked like a $10 or $100 bill.
That thing was in whatever the local red money was, and he paid it with the blue, which we kind of infer is worth more.
Sure. But then that say like $10 bill is used to pay for a single orange. That the bar tab, it's like what?
Alcohol is easy to get, I guess, in this world, and probably fresh fruit is maybe not.
Maybe.
That's kind of how I understood
Right.
it.
I mean, yeah, those things are grown: oranges, chocolate,
like,
and coffee beans. Of course, I guess beer is still like that's like wheat and hops. So,
right,
and it's the future. Maybe it's made out of some weird synthetic. I don't know. I've watched like a lot of these kind of like post-apocalyptic corporations run the world shits, and I feel like it's always like, yeah, booze is cheaper to get than like actual like food because it's just
I guess
it's a demand for poor people to get buzz. Yeah, people want to get buzz versus get
understood the gist of it, but it just felt like such a great difference.
Yeah,
you know. And
I mean, they're really trying to show you how valuable that the idea of the food we take for granted every single day. When I eat orange and chocolate and ground coffee beans.
David, if you vote for Joe Biden this November, that's gonna be right around the corner. Okay,
oh my gosh.
And I like oranges,
and he likes oranges, folks. I mean, I think it's just one of those things that you're not supposed to, I guess, probably pay too much attention to. It's just like
it's
whatever.
Supposed to leave
like,
the fact that like things are rare and scarce, and
hey, but you know what? Luxury. Chocolate gets you laid, and that's what we've learned in this.
I just like the fact that it was a fourth of his paycheck and he spent on the food. I'm like, that is just like me. And he's walking around like, I'm rich. But he doesn't know what his next run's gonna be,
yeah, that was infuriating. Yeah.
I wonder what the rent is in those kind of places. That's
I don't think there is rent. I feel like this is what communism gives you. All right. Talked about this last movie review.
True.
Yeah. Overall, I think the whole pacing of the film I feel like was decent. We did kind of ramp up to higher and higher stakes. There was a couple break moments where I feel like they needed to escalate it, so they just decided to have two female assassins in the middle of the night beat the shit out of Jin. And we don't know who they are. They're certainly not the two female assassins that we know are female assassins because that's who they are.
They're out in the open about
it. You know what I mean? And like, no offense to them, but they're making effeminate noises when they're grunts as they're punching and kicking them in the middle of the night. It's pretty easy to be like, I wonder who these female assassins were that just tried to kill me.
I think I would have bought it more if it was just like they never acknowledged that they were assassins in any way. Like, you could still hint that like, they're bad guys and they can be bought, or whatever to cheat in the tournament. But it's just like, I wonder who it would be that in this basically small little hotel of Olympians. Once again, it's Olympic City right here.
Yeah.
Who else could have beat me up? If anything, that's what they should do in the Olympics instead of having sex, is you beat up your opponent the night before.
Jesus.
Wow.
That's the only way they could have stopped Michael Phelps in 2008.
I also liked how when they flashed back, it was just like her mask was like down, like,
right.
Completely open.
Right.
You gotta get a better mask.
And the audience needs to be able to tell that's a girl.
Right.
They could have put some more paint on. She just needs some more paint.
That's funny.
What you're saying? You want her to have black paint to match the entire black outfit? I feel like that's probably not.
She could have wear the Ghost mask from Call of Duty Ghosts.
Oh,
starring our favorite character, Ghost.
Right, everyone's favorite character, Ghost, in the hit video game. Not Call of Duty Ghost, Evan, but Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
But then there was Call of Duty Ghost, and he was on the cover, and everyone loved it.
Because he's like,
it's like when your favorite athlete's on the new Madden. You know what I mean? It's just like, yes, that's my guy.
The local guy is on the national.
Gotta get that one.
I get it. And hey, like I said, they did that with this. It's the same kind of thing.
Same thing. Same
kind of thing.
Yeah.
I understand it's my pick, but scores and all that stuff, be damned. I did like this movie. It's not what I wanted it to be. It is a little embarrassing if I were to be like, hey man, we're all Tekken fans, I want to go watch this movie for the first time. It's one of those things where it's like, this isn't representing the thing I'm a fan of necessarily.
Yeah.
But if you could kind of, and I do, set that stuff aside a little bit and you look at the stuff that is accurate or at least is cool just in general, it's like, yeah, they did get Yoshimitsu in there. He does have swords. That isn't fair, but they did it anyway. But then you're also like, why does Kazuya
If he was
use
allowed
axes?
swords,
He doesn't have those in the
he should
game.
have. Someone should have just brought a gun and been game over every time. Be like, okay,
Right.
whatever, dude.
Oh, in Bushido Blade, PlayStation 1 fighting game by Squaresoft at the time. It's all one-hit kill with the swords, like realistic. And there's a character that has a gun. And it's really hard to fight that guy just because he has a gun. I think it only has one bullet, though. Maybe that's the whole thing. Yeah, I just overall I liked the movie despite some of the flaws of, it's a little bit and don't know where we're going with this, but you can also kind of predict, like, it felt very predictable, but like they were doing things in ways where it didn't feel it was different but not fresh. I wasn't like, oh, that's an interesting way of going about this very classic man enters tournament, slowly works up, going to fight the big guy at the end. Like, they do some things are like, I feel like the idea of having Christy, a character, that type of character in this movie, where our hero meets someone to be friends with just in general, usually ends up poorly. It didn't. It was actual, like, no deceit. She wasn't lying. She doesn't get killed, or anything like that. It was just, like, straight up like that, which I found very interesting. I feel like usually in these types of things, someone's got to get backstabbed or get killed for our hero to finally feel it. It ain't no game anymore. So I thought that was a little bit interesting. But overall, anything we haven't said yet that you guys are got opinions on?
I was gonna.
Do you have any idea what you guys think?
I was gonna say, like, kind of talking about, like, kind of, it felt both predictable, but also kind of where was this going? And I think for me, like, that kind of felt to me like when I'm watching this, I'm like, how is this movie not over yet? Because the movie's only an hour and, like, I think
it's 87 minutes.
90 minutes.
It's really short on paper. But I was watching this, I'm like, man, this felt like a lot longer, which usually isn't a good sign, where, like he's saying, you feel bored because some scenes were just dragging out or whatnot. I wouldn't say it was like terribly long, but just like for a movie that's this length, our how Ethan and I have always said, like, an hour 27, hour 35, like that kind of hour and a half, just generally speaking, is like probably a good starting point for a video game movie. Because if it isn't great, sometimes you get a pass because, hey, it's only an hour and a half.
If the premise is strong and the story they have is great, you can afford to go longer. But for what you're saying, a lot of these video game movies, I feel like they are just scuffing the edges of what they can even do. And so, like, yeah, the shorter the time frame, the less they feel dragged out. I'm with you.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with the one thing I forgot to mention earlier, where I felt like, I think this goes back to my, like, losing the interest, where I'm just like, man, is this still like, okay, this fight, okay, now he's gonna fight the final boss. Oh no, actually they're gonna get captured, but then he will get back in the fight. And I don't know. And the one trope that they kind of did in this was like the classic thing. I don't want to call it. I know Ethan and I always had this kind of opinion of, like, we believe in that it isn't a plot hole if it helps, like, move the story in the correct direction or if it's entertaining. But it did fall into that kind of pitfall of, like, the classic, the villain captures them instead of just killing them, and he wins. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I get, like, it's kind of for the entertainment value, like I said, but I kind of get bored of it after a while when I've seen it so many times, where, like, I need, like, a reason why he can't kill them outside of, they kind of, like, I think they were trying to make it seem like, oh, it'd be bad PR, but in a world where these corporations run the world,
who
hand in
cares?
fist,
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? Like, they haven't shown that they can revolt.
He
Everyone was
basically
cheering
did
for him
take over
in that town.
So I guess, like, he's like, oh,
but everyone
I'm
was
running
cheering
the show
for
now.
Everyone was cheering for Jin in that town, and, like, if he was afraid of, the people rising up, everyone was already cheering for Jin whether he lived or died.
Right.
So to me, it's just like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there's got to be a reason sometimes, or at least, like, I'm okay with it being, like, a really easy thing, like, oh, the people will get mad, I gotta give them they paid the tickets to see this fight.
Say
like,
something to make it. Yeah.
It just felt like they weren't hitting home for me. Why he didn't just, even his father, right? Like, he rounds up the Heihachi there, like, why isn't he just him actually kill them in front and be like, okay, I know this guy is dead, because of course he
Right.
doesn't die.
Right.
But
Just real quick,
most predictable thing, by the way, I was just like, he's gonna be alive because they don't show anything.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. So they're referencing Tekken 5's whole thing in the story is that Heihachi does die, and it's Raven who's up in the back on a mountain watching over the Mishima dojo that exploded, and he says on his comms to the United Nation, Heihachi Mishima is dead. And that was like the trailer kind of thing. So to see Kazuya say that line as he walks away, I was like, I know what they're doing. It's a very famous thing because they've said that so many times in that game. And yes, Heihachi didn't die, and you play that segment of him surviving in Tekken 7 story mode. But yeah, and I'm with you. Like I said before, like I like the actor who played Kazuya. I don't like anything he did though. Like I felt like a lot of it was like he's the whiny, I want to be in charge, Dad. You gotta let me win sometimes, kind of thing, which isn't like what the story is.
He's like, shut up, go to your room with women who are just sleeping in
now
in
that
your place
I do
constantly.
That
was a funny scene. I loved when she would like they showed like what's supposed to be like, oh, he had a crazy like orgy or something, but then his dad's there, right? And like they're talking, and there's like just like a sexy photo on the wall. And then the one girl's like topless, like passed out on the couch. And I'm just like, that was just a funny ass scene. I'm like, whoever decided like, yo, we should just like have a woman passed out there and like make it look like it was a crazy party. It was just a funny, just set design choice to be like, he's just horny, dude.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring this up and I forgot until now. So there's a funny dichotomy between like the kind of universe that this movie has for the thing and trying to avoid a lot of the kind of goofy or weird stuff from the video games. Maybe some aspects take too long to explain, so we simplify it or cut it out. And through all of these cuts and changes, it's funny to be like, Nina Williams is one of these fighters, younger looking than Steve Fox, who is her son. In the games, Steve Fox, now granted, she was put in cryostasis and he was made out of cloned genes. He was cloned from her genes, and she doesn't want anything to do with him, blah blah blah. But like I do find it funny that like that's like the game kind of has this thing going on. That's also why she continues to look as young in the games after their time skip, is because they put her on ice or whatever. But it is funny to be like, you explain that in this movie, like, doesn't make any sense, obviously, for what this movie's trying to do, and it almost feels like it's like completely different takes on these characters and all that stuff. I just find funny. Also, Nina and Anna, they would want to kill each other. That's like their whole shtick, is they're always on opposing sides and they're always trying to kill each other. Anna uses a rocket launcher in Tekken 7 as one of her things and has a special call out if Nina is her victim. But all that stuff I find funny. David, any final thoughts you have on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think echo a lot of what Devin just said.
That you loved it. It's your
the
favorite
length
movie?
felt, yeah, something like that. It felt a little long towards the end, but there were things like one of you guys brought up the stages. I did also really enjoy the stages because the one time or the few times we played Tekken. That was like a cool part of the game. Tekken 7, I think we played, where it was like 3D stages and you could like fall through.
Yeah.
And I think a couple times, like they do like throw people off the stage and like you're onto like a new part of the stage. So I thought that was cool, and it made it like a fresh fight. Even though they didn't really use the environment all that much, it felt a little bit different. Yeah, I think that's about all I have to say.
So then, why don't we talk about what our kind of end goal here as on every single episode here on the Sonic Movie Show.
We're in the end game now.
We are. Remember when he does that in the next movie, where he holds up his finger, and then Tony Stark's like, "I gotta kill myself." That's how I win. Remember that movie? People spend millions of dollars to watch that movie. It was crazy. For Tekken here,
millions.
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Some fan has seen that movie dozens and dozens of times in the theater.
Well,
right?
shout out to the guy who saw Dune Part 2 50 times in theaters, because he tweeted about every time he went to the theater, and then they eventually were like, "Hey, can we actually like?" They eventually like gave him like a free like screening where he got to meet some of the cast members. Like, he deserves it because he fucking probably spent.
That could have been us with the
Each
Sonic
ticket,
movie.
it's like 20. It could have been. Yeah, it was like
Bro would have had to
$24
see
a
that multiple
ticket.
times
That's
a
like,
day. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think it was like once. I'm like, he had not been
At least
working,
once a
and
day.
also had enough income to also go to a $24 ticket movie every single day for a
Anyway,
month.
here
Go
on the
ahead.
Sonic Movie Show, we talk about these movies, we review them, but we also have a game about it. We did a draft episode at the beginning of the season where we each picked 6 movies, and we're going through everyone's first pick, and now we're on our second picks here. My second pick rather was this movie, Tekken. And basically, we give it a tier kind of ranking, and then that awards us points. And we see at the end who has the most points. It's a bit of a game going on. As you can see, we already did 3 movies. We did Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, which was my first pick, gave it like an average score of a C. And then we had 2 back-to-back certified S's, S-rank films with Gran Turismo and Tetris, both films from last year. And I think we might need to reset going forward into some of these. Like, we can't have a 2023 expectation on all these movies going into it. Maybe we want to give my movie an S2 just to compensate. I don't know. But
Yeah.
Devin, yeah, I'm not gonna say that. Why don't you go? Sorry, choke myself up. I'm just too funny, guys. Why don't you go ahead and, as usual, in 3 minutes or less, if you can, list off what these tier rankings kind of mean. Give it a shot.
Yeah, folks, we have S, A, B, C, D, E, F, no G, tier rankings for the Sonic Movie Show here. And you got to think of these rankings kind of like on a curve, a video game movie curve. For example, an S tier video game movie might be really, really good, probably one of the best video game movies you can watch, but it might still only be maybe a B or A tier movie in the general sense. So when we're talking about this, if you're like, fuck no, is Sonic the Hedgehog 2 S tier, dude? That's like a 7 out of 10 at best. I'd be like, fair, but maybe on a video game scale, it is S tier. That's the one big example we have: Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Detective Pikachu, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, and then we had the new additions with
Gran Turismo and Tetris.
Gran Turismo and Tetris, last 2 episodes. Then we have S tier is just a little bit above A tier. Sometimes we have debates of what gets S tier, because I think it is a tough one to kind of describe sometimes. Sometimes it's a secret sauce to it where you just know it when you watch it, or it just has a sense of charm maybe that is missing just a little bit in A tier. Very memorable movies, and our go-to recommendations, I would always say S and A tier both are movies I would recommend to folks who are maybe interested in video game movies, or maybe just want a good movie to watch. I'd always recommend S and A tier. A tier, we have Mortal Kombat 2021, Rampage, Sonic the Hedgehog, Street Fighter, Super Mario Brothers, the newer Tomb Raider, Uncharted, and Super Mario Brothers movie, the animated one there. These are, like I said, just really, really good video game movies. Not many critiques we have of this, but there's something missing to get it to S tier. Or maybe this is a really good foundation, as you could see with Sonic the Hedgehog. We're like, wow, this has surprised us. This is an A tier film, has a lot of cool elements in it, and we want to see more, and we got more, and it exceeded expectations. S tier. Now we got B tier, which to me is like, even getting a B tier video game movie film sometimes can be hard to get. As you can see, there's just about the same many as A tier. We have Dead or Alive, which is kind of maybe not a great movie, well made wise, but it just has so much fun elements to it, and just good shit that it belongs in B. But then I think a more standard B movie I'd point to is, like the first Resident Evil movie, where it took elements from the game, but also had a great soundtrack, had a great cast of characters and actors, has just really, really solid movie. That's the best way I can describe B, is solid movies. C tier is like your average or just all right kind of movies. You have Angry Birds, you have both Lara Croft Tomb Raider movies, the ones that starred Angelina Jolie. We had pretty much all the rest of the Resident Evil movies after the first one in there. We also have the sequel to Silent Hill, Sonic the Hedgehog OVA. Yeah, C tier movies are just kind of there's some good elements, there's some bad elements. Maybe we still enjoyed ourselves, hopefully, but sometimes they can be a little boring as well. But that's more saved for D tier, where D is just more like boring throughout. Maybe there's not really anything great to talk about in it. Assassin's Creed, very boring movie, despite having some cool action sequences and set pieces. Just a lot of kind of got really boring real quick and stayed that way. Warcraft, same thing. Very pretty movie, but just kind of what happened. Kingslave, Final Fantasy, there, also once again, kind of it has all the pieces you'd think to be good, and then just didn't execute at all. Then you have E, which is just very, very bad. Don't recommend this in any capacity. Probably, I wouldn't spend money on any of these. You have Monster Hunter, Mortal Kombat, King of Fighters, Blood Rain. Also, a lot of times in E video game movie tiers is they don't respect the source material. Monster Hunter just had the Monster Hunter basically skins the dinosaurs in it, but other than that, they're not really following anything from the games. Then you have F tier, which I hope to never have a movie in again, because this belongs for as we've always, if you've listened to other episodes, you've heard this spiel probably a million times, but it belongs to the very awful, offensive movies, and we do mean offensive in the sense that they shouldn't have made this. This is just so bad, and it's racist. A racist movie. Postal is in this. Just why was this made? I feel bad for everyone involved outside of Uwe Boll who thinks this was a fantastic film.
That's right. Thank you, Devin, for that. And as a reminder, guys, that is not what I want you guys to see. This here is, I just saw Adobe Illustrator open on the screen for a second.
Oh, what was the editing, folks? Oh my God, you see that?
Yeah, wow. That's right. It's the score we're about to set in. Here you can see the rubric that we go through. Very basic points. As Devin said, all of our tiers are, top to bottom. You get less points, one after the other. There's a whole counterpoint system thing. Don't worry about that for a few more movies. When we get to Super Mario Brothers, blah, 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 is when we'll actually talk about that stuff. But it's a long title. It barely fits in the little rectangle I gave it space for. So, with that being said, as tradition, this is my movie, so I'm going to go forced first with my pitch.
I'll go first.
I'll go forced, the first into the forced. Like I said, overall, I did enjoy this movie. I wish there was more to it. I really do. But I did enjoy this movie. I don't think it was bad. There was a lot to like in it. A lot of the fights were cool-ish. A lot of the set design, and I even felt like the music had a bit of an industrial kind of thing, which is kind of a bit of a Tekken 3 thing, but we didn't talk about that earlier. I feel like this movie isn't worse than Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, in my opinion. I don't know how much better I would have it be, though. In my opinion, this movie is also a C. That's where I'm gonna be. In some of these conversations in my head, I'm flipping it up to B. I know Devin likes to do this thing where he does he has tier rankings within the tier rankings. There's high, medium, low, ultra low, which defeats the purpose of the whole thing.
It makes me feel better. It makes me feel better when I'm like, listen, I'm putting it in this tier, but it's at the high end. Okay, it's at the high, just a little bit more you could have got to the other one. That's how I compromise usually. Is I do have a higher, especially when we get to like you said, C here. We have so many movies in the C tier, and there's some on here where I'm like,
so there are ones better than others for sure, and that's this movie. To me, if I were to be in Devin's shoes right now, I don't know what he's gonna say, but if I were to take that tactic, I'd say this is a high C or a low B. But on paper, I would write down C. I feel like I've said enough. David, what do you think?
I think I have a really similar opinion. I think there was good parts of the movie, but unfortunately, it had some dead parts where I was forcing myself to not look at my phone or be distracted. Just a little bit long. I think if they chopped it down to an hour and took away a few of the meaningless fights, it could have been a B. But I was also thinking a high C.
Everyone's
You want a
favorite
high C
drink
after
from when they're
fruit
six.
punch?
Yeah.
Which is just a C on the board.
Right. Devin?
Honestly, I feel like it's one of the easier ones we've ranked. Like after watching it, I had this rank in mind, and like I said earlier, though, I was on the fence of like how much in that rank I was kind of feeling. Whether or not, like I said, I think there's some great, like I agree with all of what you said. Like I think there's some fun elements. This is a great movie. I think once, like, kind of like Chun-Li, like I said earlier, that you can watch with your friends. I think if you guys just want to shoot the shit, and have a couple beers, like I said, and just not really pay attention to the movie, maybe laugh at some parts or whatever. Like I think we could do a watch. This if there's a list of movies on here, this is making the list of potential watch-alongs one day. Maybe would too, or I would love to watch it with you both. Where I think it'd just be fun to be like, oh, this scene's funny, or like this quote's stupid as hell, or that was cool. That's sick. It definitely fits the bill in terms of the 2010s, just cheesy video game movies, for better and for worse, in that regard. I think I would put it easily in the C rank. I think I'm not gonna put it as high in the high C's, but I'd put it in like the middle to high C's. I actually have 4 tiers in it. So I'm putting it the middle high C ranking, which is C on paper as well. I think this is one of the easier ones to rank. It was for me. I just wanted to hear what you all were thinking going in, just or earlier, because I was like, maybe I could hear like like convincing of why it would be that much better than the Chun-Li one, but I feel like it is. I think that's where I'm settling. Is it's a little bit better. How much more? Hard to kind of gauge. But yeah, in the mid high C's for me.
Okay. Well, I think it's official. We all agree that it is a C tier film, which has earned me 3 more points. Now, folks at home, if this is your first time, you might notice for the first time that there are decimal points next to each of our total scores, as Devin quickly scoops up the thing for this. How we go about this is because this is a tiebreaker, essentially, because it's very possible that we could get very similar scores. It's a very low-scoring game, so it's very easy to get a tie. To break that tie, what we do is we go to RottenTomatoes.com, look at the audience score percentage number, and apply that as a bonus decimal to the number. So, as people can look, even with this, I'm still in third place with 2 movies, just not good. But David has a 6.98. That 0.98 came from a 98% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes for his Gran Turismo pick, which is crazy. So, Devin, what is the audience score for Tekken?
Well, kind of like how we've been doing the last couple episodes, I want you all to guess, what you think this is.
I'm gonna guess 37.
Wow, that's lower than I was gonna say. I feel like audience scores can be more forgiving, so I was thinking 53.
53. Well, it is in fact 31.
I was closer. Wow.
And for reviews, that was the audience score, 31 out of 10,000 ratings. For the tomato meter, with 6 reviews total, it is at a hot 0%.
Wow. 0%.
So glad we're not doing review scores, because
brutal.
Wow.
I don't think that's fair. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, that isn't fair. It's some
of these
were
written at the time. The fight sequences, I'll just read one here. The fight sequences, dreamlike and almost spiritual in the original game, are relegated to UFC-style octagons. I don't know if you watched the movie. Shot like shaky cam snuff and soundtracked by insane clown posse wannabes. That's awesome. Which is cool now, though. Back then, I could see why to be like, we're back. It'll be a headache-inducing if it weren't so damn boring. Shout out to Simon Morado from Quick Flicks for that one. I'll start doing that from now on. I'm gonna start reading like just a random, probably stinky review, because it's funny to read criticism than it is compliments.
I like this.
Maybe I'll start doing that.
I like this. Well, Thank you, David. Thank you, Devin, for joining me and the audience here in reviewing the 2010 film Tekken. But our show isn't over yet because, as is tradition,
Oh, that's right.
it's time for everyone's new favorite game show, Who's That Tekken Guy? Yay, everyone's clapping in the background.
Man.
It's going to be very simple, guys. I have on our Discord, I added a new text channel called Game Show. I'm going to be posting a picture in there. Each picture is going to have 3 Tekken characters. It's A and B and C are going to be, written under their names. And I want you to tell me, you can buzz in by saying your own name, as in our traditional fashion of quick hitters here. A, B, or C to answer when I say, who is blank?
Who is that Pokemon?
I want you to say A, B, or C. So you're going to buzz in by saying your own name. The audience here will be able to see as well. So, first...
and folks who are watching,
the text channel called
comments
Game Show.
all the answers as they're happening before us, and you win a prize.
Sure, absolutely.
$200.
Do you have to be before us?
Set up here. I want to know, first and foremost, which character on these 3 is... Oh my god, I have to do like 2 things at once here. Jin Kazama, our main character. Which one of these 3 characters is Jin Kazama?
Devin. A.
Devin said, "Oh, you get 5 points for every correct answer. You don't get anything if you miss, and you can steal if you get it wrong." Devin says A for Jin Kazama. Devin, that is correct. Congratulations.
See, because he had the hair. I see.
Right.
So I'll give the movie credit for that.
Yeah, it's the classic. I mean, I had to start off with that character to begin with. Hold on one. Oh wait, I'm on the wrong thing here. Sorry. I have a lot of things to juggle around.
People can't see the emotes, but we just did the "Let's fucking go" emo.
Oh yes,
I've never seen that one.
There we go.
Let's fucking go.
So Devin gets the first question correct. It is time for our second of 6 here, or Who's That Tekken Guy? I want to know which one of these 3 characters is Kazuya Mishima. Which one of these 3 characters? Devin.
Oh.
A.
Devin says A for Kazuya Mishima. That is incorrect. Dave, you have a chance to steal.
I don't remember the name.
David says C
I
for
thought
Kazuya.
It was the one Devin was thinking of as well. I was also going to say A.
Damn, I hurt myself. I have a strategy right now, which is just to say it and then guess.
just jump right off the gate.
You're winning. Well, I guess not anymore, but...
David, that is 100% correct. You are now tied with Devin. We are on number 3 here. And these are all characters that are from the movie, by the way. I'm only doing the movie characters. I should have stated that. I want to know now, from this list of 3 characters, who is Nina Williams?
Devin.
David.
I heard Devin first.
David.
Yeah, he finished first.
A, baby.
Devin says A for Nina Williams. Devin, that is 100% correct. Wow, we're going back and forth here. That's right. Wow. I thought maybe I could trick you up because Anna's on the right, and she was in the movie. Then we have Zafina in the middle, and she was.
Is that tattoos on her legs, or is that like a cool
Anna on the right? I think that's a stocking.
Stocking, yeah.
That's a stocking.
It'd be cooler if it was tattoos. I can see it. I see the vision.
Zafina in the middle, she has an ancient evil trapped in her arm. That's why it's all glowing.
Like the
Go on.
Infamous or something. Someone has it's from Apex Legends. She has the arm.
Huh?
And she teleports.
Who?
In Apex Legends. She's like the one with the little knife, and then she's like she runs like Naruto.
She has something in her arm. I thought she was just crazy.
Yeah, she goes.
Oh, okay, sure. Anyway, David, you have to tie this up.
Shout out Apex.
Yeah, I know. You have to tie this up, David, because we're halfway through. I want to know from this list of 3 Tekken characters, which one here, as I look at my spreadsheet to know who I'm even wanting. Okay, which one of these 3 characters is Brian Fury?
Devin.
David.
I heard Devin first.
B.
Yeah.
Devin says B. B is correct. Devin gets 5 more points.
God.
Devin, you're beating him 15-5. David, you have to get these
Love to
next
see
2 answers correct in order to get a tiebreaker question. Okay. Now,
Here we go.
for our penultimate one here. There's just so much clicking I have to do. I did not think this through. Our penultimate question here. Which one of these 3 characters is Jun Kazama?
David.
David.
I want to say A, even though C was more the vibe in the movie. So I feel like I'm going to be wrong, but I'm going to go A.
David says A. That is
David
incorrect.
just sees the. David saw the tummy and he.
Wow.
He got
A is
excited.
Christy Montero.
All right, then I'm gonna guess C.
Devin says C. That is
That's what
correct.
David wanted to- Yeah.
That is correct. And fun fact, character in the middle there, Lydia is the Prime Minister of Poland. In the
No,
video
she's
game.
not.
In the video game.
Oh.
She is.
Like, wow, they voted
In
for a
real life.
video game character? What the hell's going on over
Yeah.
there?
No. All right. Well, David, thank you for playing. Devin, let's see
Feels
if you can get 5 out of the 6 questions correct here, because right now you got 4.
Jeez.
You got 4
I said
out of the
earlier I
6.
didn't know much about Tekken, but maybe I'm wrong.
All right. Well, I
Tekken
wanted to
Pro.
make this one. I could have made this one harder, and I was realizing like, no, I gotta like,
You should
you know,
you should have thrown like just like a Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and then another one, but then not. And we had to just guess
Oh, I
like,
didn't
oh,
even-
they're
I
all
didn't
wrong.
even
That's the
think
trick
about
question.
that. I didn't
They're all
even think
wrong.
about
They're
that.
not. None of them are
For
from
this-
this game.
for this last question here, he was in this movie as a Jin's manager. Who here of these 3 is Steve Fox?
David.
David.
C.
David says
He was
C.
British.
David, C is 100% correct. Congratulations. I
He
thought I
wasn't
could
British in this
maybe.
movie.
Caught up.
He said wanker a lot in the movie.
Oh, see, I didn't pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I guess.
See, I tried to maybe trip you guys up in the last one by having like 2 black guys in there to be like, wait, did they whitewash the character? Ethan didn't mention that. You know, I
Once
wanted to see if I could
question,
get that.
I did think like, oh, maybe it was B, and they just like made a really weird decision.
Thought I could maybe get you there. A is Eddie
See, I didn't remember
Gorder.
he was British. That was where I was getting stuck on. I'm like,
Yeah.
See,
Did
you
he
know, in
say
that split
anything? Did he
second,
say
I was
bruv?
wondering if you guys were even going to pick up the fact that the flag is on his knee. You know what I mean? I didn't even know if
I
you guys
didn't
would have.
notice.
the Union Jack.
Yeah. As they say. Well, Devin,
Yep.
congratulations. David, you still fought at the very end there.
Needed that
10
one.
points into the whole thing. But Devin, buddy, I got good news for you. You are no longer tied with David overall. You've earned your 3rd trophy. That's right, folks.
See, we swung the momentum back. You know, he took. I got the
Ooh.
first one. He took a quick 2 back, and then I had to tie it up, and then I needed this one.
That's
Because
right.
if I lost
that's
that
right.
one, the momentum's right back against me. It's just
Well, who knows what crazy stuff might happen if such a thing ever occurs in the future. We got a lot of movies to go, folks, and we have a lot of fun little things to be had. And who knows how this will happen, how this will turn out. I want to say once again for all of you in the back, especially, because I know you paid for the seats to come here. Thank you guys for watching this episode of the Sonic Movie Show. As a reminder, we are a YouTube channel, so there was a lot of visual on screen that you didn't get if you were listening to this on Apple Music or Spotify or Audible. At Sonic Movie Show on all those places. TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter even. We're on there at Sonic Movie Show. But what I really want you guys to do, you don't need to follow us on all those places. Just on this YouTube video, hit that like button, hit the little bit of the bell, hit the subscribe thing. I know everyone asks you to do this, but this helps us survive. David's expensive, and that's why he's not on every episode of the show in general.
I'm charging them a ton of money.
Yeah, 30 grand
We're in
per
the hole.
episode. I just want you guys in the comments of the video being like, I loved this episode. Say something like that doesn't sound like a bot said it, and just say if you actually liked or disliked the Tekken movie, especially if you're a fan of the game. That's what I want to know the most about. Thank you, David, once again for joining us. Thank you, Devin, once again for joining me. As always, Tekken out.
David out.